ServiceNow. Means what is REST API Explorer in ServiceNow. Okay. So what is REST API Explorer? ServiceNow's REST API Explorer is an application to construct and test API requests to a ServiceNow instance. Okay. Then who can access it? Means who can access the REST API Explorer? So the REST Explorer is available to users with REST API Explorer role or the admin role. Means the REST API Explorer, the users who has only REST API Explorer role or admin role. So these two kind of users can access it. Okay. So how to open it? Means how can we open REST API in ServiceNow PDI? Okay. So let's see now. To open the REST API Explorer, use the All menu. Okay, you can see the All menu, right? To open. Okay, so if you go to All, after that, under Web Services, System Web Services, you can see REST, right? So under REST, you can see REST API Explorer. So if you click that, the window will get open. Okay, so let's go next. So welcome screen for the first time users means, for example, if a user for that PDI who doesn't opened before, and this is the first time the user is opening the API, REST API. Okay, so then what it will show, the display means this display will show like this message will show, and if you click on explore, then the API window will get open for that user. So this is the welcome screen for first time users. Okay, means the user doesn't open before. So this is the first time means it will show like this. Okay, and let's see how the REST API windows will be. How if we go previously, we can see if we click on explore, you even see the window, right? So we can see how the REST API Explorer window will be. Okay. So this is the window. What actually we get if we click on REST API Explorer from previous steps. So by default, it will take a table API. You can see the table API. So okay. So by default, it will take table API. And if you see, and you can see the select name API and version, partial endpoint for selected API. Means if you take selected name API and version in the sense, you can select namespace. Okay, and you can see API name, you can see API versions there. Okay, if you go to next in the diagram, you can see partial endpoint for selected API. Means if you take table API, it will show the things what the endpoints it will show here, partial endpoints. If you take import set API, so it will populate what the import set has endpoints like that. Okay, so it will show here. So if you go to this one, use the API to view the API documentation and another dashboard means like if you need to check whole API document of the particular page for a table API or import set API, what you are in front of you. So we can click on that on this icon, and by using this you can fetch all API documentations, everything here. Okay, so if you see here, you can see this is the select a method. Select a method in such sense. So for different APIs, it has different methods. Okay, for example, I have taken table API, right? This is table API. If you take table API, you can see these are the methods like retrieve records, create a record, retrieve a record, modify a record, delete a record, update a record. So these are the methods for table API which we have taken now. And if you go to config API parameters, So this is the parameters which we are configuring, like to show display values. We can configure here, like or else to show some particular fields. So I don't want all fields as output. I want only particular fields so that we can use query parameters. Yeah, and we have so more. We will see those in coming sections. Okay. So these are the things, and yeah. So these all things we have. So yeah, and you can see the configure the endpoint, a menu to access the documentation for API selected and the API analyst dashboard. So this refers this one means you can see the API documentation of the dashboard which we have taken now. Like if you take table API, they will show the documentation, API documentations there. Okay, and you can see a section to test the endpoint. Okay, the endpoint here I can't show because it's below this window. Like if you see this snap below this, if you scroll, you can see that in REST API Explorer. So we will discuss in coming upcoming videos or something. Okay. So selecting an API. So in REST API Explorer, how we can select an API. Okay. So let's see the fields in the prepare request section of the REST API Explorer form are determined by which namespace, API, API version, and REST method is selected. So selecting an API in the sense you can see here namespace. Okay, here by using here you will select the API, which API you need. Table API, like attachment API, import set API. We have a number of plenty we have. So what API you need to select? You can select by using by you can see right by using API name, API version, and namespace. So if you see the namespace in the sense you will select the web service scope. So what web service scope you need. So that you will select under namespace. By default it will be now. Now in the sense it is service now. If it is global, it has many, and I can tell you like under namespace you can see many options. Okay, like many choice options. So in that I had taken three things for samples. So which is global? Global in the sense we all know it is globally scoped APIs. And now in the sense it's representing REST API provided by ServiceNow. Okay. And if you select here under namespace, if you select private scope name in the sense, it defines namespace format used for APIs, which is a scripted web services in privately scoped applications. So under namespace, you can see many options. So based on your requirement, you can select. Okay, but by default, the value will be now. Now in the sense the REST API provided by ServiceNow, it will be defaultly will be there now. Okay, if you go to API name in the sense we have again here we have plenty number of APIs. Okay, for example, we have import set API, table API, attachment API, like that. We have many, and reporting API we have. Okay, so like that we can select what API we need to perform. Okay, by default, if you open REST API, it will show as table API. Okay, so for example, I have taken table API, attachment API, reporting API, which means we can see plenty, but I have taken only three for example to show you. Okay, and if you see the API version, here you can see the API version, right? API version in the sense, for example, I have taken import set API. I have taken import set API under API name. So for that, what version I need to implement, like what version I need to get. For that, we can select under API version. You can take. It will show what versions they has. For example, if import set has V1, V2, V3 up to V10. But for table API, it's only have V1 and V2. So it's based on it's based on API name which you are selecting. Below the API version, values will populate. So based on that API name, the versions will populate and you can select which versions you want there. So this is the purpose of this API version. So now you understand, right? Namespace, API name, API version. Namespace in the sense uh, which web service scope you want. So that is the purpose of the namespace. And coming to API name, we have seen like what API you need to perform, so that he will select. And the API version means what version you need to do, like latest or V1, V2 or something. Okay, based on that table API name, the versions will populate. And the default value of the API version is latest only. If if you don't do anything, the default value of the API version is latest. So coming to REST method, yeah. So REST method means select form from the list of variable REST methods based on the namespace, API name, API version. The arrowhead indicates the selected method. Means before screens we have seen what is method, means what methods we need to select for particular APIs. So we can see here in this snap we have taken uh, API name as table API. For table API, these are all methods like get, post, put, delete, patch. These are the methods. Like it varies. If you take some other API name like attachment API, then the method will varies here. It won't be same. It will varies. Okay. If you take import set, again the methods these methods will get varies. So the method which I am showing is table API. So it varies based on your selection of API name in REST API Explorer. Okay. So for the table API, we have nearly few methods. Yeah, I said right. This is relate this red color box is related to table API methods. So it populates based on API name. If you take import set API or attachment API, the method will the method will change. It won't be same as table API. Yeah. So if you see here, you can uh, on screen of the REST API Explorer on the right side on top of you can see three lines. I showed you previous slides. Like in that three lines, if you click that, you can see share link means you can share this whole page link, and you can see API documentation means you can see the API documentation of the dashboard. Like the API Explorer displays information about the selection. For more information, select the API documentation menu item from the REST API Explorer menu. Yeah, that's what I told. Like share link will use to share the link, and API documentation is used to give select more information. Okay, for this particular menu. And coming to REST parameters. So this is REST parameters we'll see in REST API window. So for that we will see what are the REST API parameters and what is the functionality and what it does. We can see. Okay. So under REST parameters, it consists of three types, which is path parameters, query parameters, request headers. Okay. So we have three three sections for request parameters. Okay. So if you take first one, path parameters. So the list of path parameters depends on the endpoint URL. Yeah. And path parameters are enclosed in curly braces in the endpoint URL. and the values set in the path parameter field are substituted in the endpoint URL when a request is sent. Like when a request is sent, uh, this is the link. Like this is a syntax, we can say in easy language. This is the syntax for the method which we have selected for that API name. So this table name under path parameters, we can see table name. We are selecting one table, right? Like what table we need, like that. So if you take incident table, this incident table will trans will send here. Like this is the table name, which for example, this is the HTTPS. This is our portal link and states. This is table name in the sense this incident table we selected, right? So this will go here. So this is the method link. Okay. So this is path parameters. If you go to query parameters, so under path parameters, you can see query parameters in REST API Explorer window. So query parameters is used like REST request parameters are added to the endpoints URL by the REST API Explorer. When the request is sent, the query parameters are specific to the selected API method. Means if you take table API, then these query parameters will change. Okay, some fields will get show, some fields won't show for table API. If you select some other API, not table API, then some fields will get changed. So based on API name which you are selecting, the query parameters will get populated. Means the default queries will populated based on the table API. Sorry, the query parameters will populate. Default things will populate based on the API name which you are selecting. Okay. So this is the default. Some default queries will automatically populate. If you need to see, a default set of query parameters are displayed for the API. To add additional queries, use the add query parameter button to add a new parameter to the query. For a complete list and detailed description of an API's query parameters, select the API documentation menu item from the REST API Explorer menu. Means, so this is the default. Like you will get the default query window based upon your API name which you have selected. What you have selected, for example, table API import set API something. So the default query will occur. But if you need some custom queries you need to add in the sense, you can see add query parameter button at the below. If you click that add query parameter, you can add your custom queries based upon your needs. You can add custom queries by using this add query parameter button. So this is the use of this add query parameter button. Like if you need to see the detailed description of an API and query parameters, you can select API documentation menu item. So previously we have explained, right? On REST API Explorer window, right side top, you can see three lines. So those three lines, you can see the API documentation file. So this is the thing which I'm telling, API documentation thing. If you click on that, you will see the whole mm, functionality of the Explorer. Yeah. And if you go next, we can see request. Sorry, we have completed the query parameters and we have seen the API documentation also. So let's see next one, request headers. Request headers means request headers define the format of the request and response. So after query parameters, you can see another section called request parameters. Okay. In that, you can select request format, response format, authorization. Means request format means the request which you are sending, there is one format, right? So what format you are sending, so that you need to select. By default, it will be the application JSON. And response format, the response which you are getting. Okay, so that what format that's need to be. So same thing, you need to, the default it will be application JSON. You can select on your needs. And authorization is send as me. It's based upon your needs. You can change that. And below you can see now add header. In request headers, so these are the default fields for all APIs. But for all kind of APIs, this is the default for request headers. If you need some custom headers, if you need to add, okay, if you click here add header, this is the add header button. You can see in REST API Explorer window. If you click that, you can see one field which you can put the custom values and things like